Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we're going to talk about some developments surrounding the Hawks. We're going to be breaking down ESPN's brutal regrade of the Dyson Daniels DeJonte Murray trade that happened really exactly 1 year ago today. We're going to talk about Jaylen Johnson's return to the court, when we can be expecting him, and he also opened up about it recently, and so we're going to talk about what he said, regarding the whole recovery process. We also have a big leap in front office rankings. After the incredible offseason the Atlanta Hawks have had so far, they're getting some, national recognition when it comes to, the executives in their front office. And also what Chris Paul's latest move might mean for the Atlanta Hawks in a potential homecoming with Al Horford. So really, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it and start with a recent article by ESPN's Kevin Pelton. According to him, the Dyson Daniels DeJonte Murray trade, the results weren't even close. They reevaluated it, him and ESPN, and yeah, it wasn't even close. It's not surprising, just considering the what happened last year. DeJonte obviously got hurt, but I'm putting that aside. It looks like Atlanta got the much better value, not just because of Dyson Daniels, but what else they got in return just for DeJonte. So when the deal was first made, though, both teams were given a B-plus grade. It was seen as a win-win pretty much. But just 1 year later, ESPN now gives the Hawks an A and the Pelicans an F. Definitely not the last time Atlanta was going to fleece New Orleans. But here's what Pelton wrote. Quote, this deal already looked like a mistake for the Pelicans before Murray suffered an Achilles rupture. That should keep him out at least a couple months into the 2025-26 season. The biggest issue was New Orleans selling low on Daniels, the number 8 pick in 2022. Whoops. So that was his full quote. He definitely, he talked a little bit more, but that was definitely the most polarizing quote. Daniels wasn't just good last year, though. He was historic defensively. He averaged over 3 points. He averaged over 3 steals a game. He became the first player since Alvin Robertson in 1990 to average over 3 steals a game in a full season. Just ridiculous numbers. Those are numbers you really don't see ever. He finished with 229 total steals. It was obviously the most in the NBA, and it was also the most in franchise history. He came in first season as a Hawk and really cemented his legacy in Atlanta already, and he's just going to continue growing as a player on both ends of the ball. He had the most steals in franchise history last season, so definitely made a statement right out of the gates. It was also the most steals by any player since Gary Payton in 1996. Payton won Defensive Player of the Year that season. Dyson also should have been Defensive Player of the Year last season, but he didn't get that. But he did win Most Improved Player, so the NBA couldn't completely escape giving Dyson some recognition for that historic season last year. After all of this, Dyson really became, the centerpiece of Atlanta's revamped perimeter defense and overall identity. Over the past year or so, while Atlanta is still very much focused, on building offensively and getting out in transition and getting up a lot of threes, they definitely have, gotten a new defensive identity, and they've been putting a lot of focus on getting just tenacious defenders. And it starts with Dyson Daniels, and Dyson has really helped set the culture. A lot of Hawks players were even in interviews, they would say that, it starts with Dyson. Dyson is changing the culture here defensively. And Dyson's only 22 years old. So he's going to continue to grow as a Hawk, and I can't wait for his future. Definitely a steal that we got from New Orleans. Let's not forget, Daniels is, while he is 22, he's still on a rookie contract, $7.7 million this year. That's incredible value, and he's obviously due for an extension, and he probably will get that soon. But for the time being, he's definitely not making as much as he deserves. The Hawks also walked away in that trade with the number 22 pick in this year's draft. That pick was actually used to acquire Kristaps Porzingis from Boston, obviously alongside Georges Niang and Terrence Mann, and also a 2027 first rounder from Milwaukee, which is a pick that could be gold depending on the future of Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Hawks obviously in this last trade with New Orleans acquired some draft rights for Milwaukee's 2026 pick, so the Hawks could potentially own Milwaukee's future for 2026 and 2027. So definitely some great leverage. And that's why Giannis has been linked to Atlanta in trade rumors. While that's unlikely, and that's not what we're going to talk about today, that is worth noting. But at this time last year, Atlanta had failed to make the playoffs and seemed a little directionless. That was until the infamous Daniels Murray trade. Now they have kind of built around youth, defense, flexibility, and this trade was the catalyst. Dyson has been great, and I can't wait for his future. On the other hand, DeJonte Murray for the Pelicans. We know who Murray is as a player. He's now, I think, 27. He is who he is, and that's a good offensive player. He tends to struggle on the defensive end, and he's very ball dominant, doesn't like to move off the ball, and that was never going to work with Trae Young in Atlanta. He needs guys that can move off the ball and are willing to, defend and play their roles. While we appreciate DeJounte's contributions in his 2 seasons in Atlanta, he definitely wasn't going to work out long term. So Atlanta got off, I guess, a negative value player and brought in their two guard who is planning on starting for the next decade or so for the team, and then also 2 very valuable first-round picks, and also Larry Nance Jr. for that 1 season. So it's no surprise that Atlanta got a much better grade on this regrade of the trade because it looks like an absolute fleece. Now we'll see how DeJounte does with the Pelicans this season once he's healthy. I don't expect them to be good, and Atlanta owns their first-round pick next season, so we'll kind of hope that they don't make any sort of leap. So now let's talk about Jaylen Johnson. Johnson was supposed to be most improved player last year. That ended up going to Atlanta's own Dyson Daniels, but Johnson was a legitimate candidate. He also could have been an all-star, but he went down with a injury. He missed the tail end of, not the tail end, he missed most of last season. He only played 30-something games. Johnson did finally give us an update on his rehab and recovery via TikTok. Here is what he said, and over a montage of footage from one of his workouts. He said, "We're finally back moving. It feels good to start making another step in the right direction in my recovery. Chris, slow pace and everything, keeping me active at the same time, but protecting me. So it's been good. Got some work in, and we're back at it at 7 a.m. tomorrow." So he seems laser focused. This is someone who, in the clips, looked pretty healthy. I mean, I know he's not at 100% yet, and it's going to be a little bit until he is cleared for, basketball operations. But, I mean, like I said, the voiceover played over a montage of him training in the gym, and, he's looking like himself again, for sure. He's moving well laterally. He's, getting elevation on his shots. He's showing the kind of agility that, made him one of the most promising wings in the NBA this past season. And his future is literally limitless. The sky's the limit for him. He averaged like 20, 10, and 6 last season in the limited games that he played. If he stays healthy next season, we're looking at a legitimate probably 22, 23 points per game, 11 rebounds, 6, 7 assists. This is someone who is a very promising player, and I can't wait for his future. Now with the spacing that Kristaps Porzingis and company are going to provide, he's going to have a lot more driving room, and that opens up, the floor for him to make the right read. He could see his assist numbers go up to maybe 8 a game. This is someone with just all-around potential, and I can't wait for, to see him grow. I mean, assuming no setbacks, Johnson is on track to be cleared for full activity by training camp, which is just starting in a few weeks. It's great news for a Hawks team that has quietly been building a long, switchable, high IQ front court rotation, and it's going to be very fun to watch if they all stay healthy. Now we're going to talk about how CBS Sports, Sam Quinn, he just released his updated rankings of NBA front offices. I think this is something he does every year. And the Hawks have made one of the biggest leaps in the league. They jumped up 10 spots. So back in February, Atlanta was ranked 26. Now he has them ranked as the 16th best front office in the NBA. While I do think that is still a little low, it shows that they are getting recognition as one of the offseason, one of the best off seasons in the NBA. And I think they definitely have. So Quinn credits both former GM Landry Fields for initiating the Murray trade and the new trio of Auntie Soleil, Bryson Graham, and Peter Dinwiddie for executing what he calls a nearly perfect transaction cycle. I've literally seen no one say anything negative about Atlanta's offseason. It's like the first offseason since I have started paying attention to the Hawks that they've gotten this much praise. So hopefully they can come through and actually make the playoffs and be good next year. They addressed every issue though. Spacing, they signed Luke Kennard. They traded for Kristaps Porzingis. Shot creation and defense, they traded for Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Interior scoring and versatility, they added Kristaps Porzingis without giving up core youth. Long-term asset management, they acquired an unprotected 2026 pick from the Pelicans with swap rights involving Milwaukee. Whoever is the worst team out of the Milwaukee Bucks and the New Orleans Pelicans, the Hawks will get their pick. They literally have 2 chances at the number 1 pick. Both teams are going to be bad next year. Don't let anyone sugarcoat it. The Hawks are probably going to end up with one of AJ DeBanza, Cameron Boozer, or Darren Peterson next season. They could also trade that pick, and it's probably one of the most valuable assets in the entire NBA. The Hawks are in a great position, and it's because of these awesome trades made by this this front office who is doing a really, really good job. Like I said, if the Pelicans stay near the bottom and Giannis maybe departs from Milwaukee, it's literally going to be one or two. So the only major question left is, really Trae Young's future in the eyes of the media. Trae is definitely bought into the Hawks, but Quinn points out that in today's NBA, small guards who struggle defensively are rarely max-level players, and if Atlanta can either extend Young at a reasonable number or flip him for fair value, it would put about on what CBS calls a flawless offseason. Now, I definitely think this is flawed, this part of it, because I definitely think Trae Young is going to be in Atlanta for a very long time, but, his reputation among the league is that the Hawks might want to move off of him sometime soon. That is not the case. So this was the only part of the article that I wanted to mention that I didn't really agree with. But nonetheless, Atlanta's still getting recognition. So let that sink in, though. A national outlet calling the Hawks offseason flawless, that's not something we've heard in a while. So now we're going to talk about, just some things that have been going around in the NBA and how they might relate to the Hawks. So Chris Paul just signed back with the Clippers. Returning back to the team where he played his prime years. It's not where he was drafted. But if that sounds familiar, this is part of a growing trend. Damian Lillard signed with Portland again. So now Dame is back in Portland, and Chris Paul is back in LA. Maybe Russell Westbrook goes back to OKC. He's still a free agent. So that raises one big question. Could Al Horford be home for one last run? We've talked about Horford a good bit, just because I think personally this is the best possible use of the last roster spot. He's expected to either retire at the end of this coming season or possibly sooner, maybe right now. If the Celtics, if his time with the Celtics is any indicator, he still has at least one or two good seasons of basketball left. And if he has that truly left in the tank, what better place to finish than Atlanta? A return to the Hawks would not just be poetic, it would be practical. Horford already has that experience playing behind Kristaps Porzingis and could provide valuable leadership from a veteran, some spacing and playoff experience off the bench as that third big. He wouldn't take any minutes away from the young guys, but he'd be there to help mentor and stabilize a rising team and also help rebuild that bridge with Atlanta Hawks fans. There are very few veteran options that check as many boxes as Horford potentially does for a final roster spot for a team like the Hawks. So, like I said, we've talked about this plenty of times, but with Paul now going back to LA and many more stars returning home, it feels more and more possible that something like this could get done. So let's recap. ESPN says the Hawks absolutely fleeced the Pelicans in the Daniels deal, and I agree, and I think everyone agrees. Jaylen Johnson looks pretty ready for training camp. The front office is finally getting recognition, the recognition that it deserves. And maybe, just maybe, we will get to see Al Horford finish his career where it all began. Big moves are happening in Atlanta, and here on Hawks Latest, we're going to be covering every single step. So be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Do you want to see Horford back in a Hawks jersey? What are your expectations for Jaylen Johnson next season? And have you loved the front office, what they've been doing this offseason? Let me know, and thank you guys for watching. Until next time, I'll see you then. This has been Hawks Latest. I'll see you guys next time.